Hello, Team Easy Dating. Welcome. I'm Mike Goldstein of EasyDatingCoach.com. If you have not subscribed, go down there, hit subscribe. But today, what we're going to do is talk to my new friend, Barry Price. Barry's in Venice. I'm in just down the road in Hermosa Beach. Barry, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I am so pumped for Barry because this guy has got a wealth of knowledge. Both him and I like to say he's got 40 years of dating advice because he had his single mom that was raising him at 8 years old going on dates, and he was the 8-year-old therapist a little bit. So he's got so much knowledge about women dating, and I'm really excited. The first thing I want to talk about, Barry, is the patterns women go in. And men do this too, obviously, is we date what feels comfortable, right? We just keep going comfortable, probably not the right partner, and we're wondering what the heck, why are we doing this wrong? So talk to me about what you've come up with over the years on why we do this and what that looks like.
You know what? As a kid, you watch your mom looking for love, and all I wanted was to see her be loved and be happy. But the other thing that happens is you as an external observer can notice things that person isn't noticing, right? So I literally got to be in the same boat as her, going through the experiences of the ups and downs, of the excitement of a great guy asking her out, or the letdown of being 3 months in and then he pulls away and disappears. So I've been through the emotional experience, as you kind of allude to, of that from the time I was 8, so decades and decades of feeling what it's like to look for princes and get frogs and that kind of thing. But at the same time, I also wasn't actually her, right? So I was actually also getting to observe and notice patterns. And one of the things that became really apparent over time was she didn't always see everything clearly, right? That she had blind spots, and that our emotions can give us something that I now know are called cognitive distortions, ways that our emotions can change our perceptions of things. The guy that you think will change, but it's clear to everyone but you that he won't. The person that you're hoping calls you back that everyone else knows isn't going to call you back. Person who's you think is bad for you, but he's actually good for you, but you're not interested in all of these sorts of things. So the pattern really, to me, is about how there can so often be a disconnect between what we say we want, what we think we want, and the way we end up behaving and acting. I work with a lot of powerful women, smart women, and these women can be very discouraged, frustrated with, I'm successful in everything else, I'm smart, why the heck can't I figure this out, right? It's like, I know what I want, then so why do I keep doing this? Or why do I keep going for the wrong guy? Or why do I keep attracting? So the pattern is quite often driven by emotional, subconscious stuff that's going on. We can get more into detail on that. But it's really a divide between our emotional, subconscious patterns and what we intellectually know we're trying to accomplish. Yeah.
Barry.
Yeah.
You said we've got these, I love that. We've got these successful women that are rocking it with their job, with their career, with their family, but they're blowing it when it comes to picking the right guy and getting a relationship. Why the heck can't they get it together? What do you think is preventing them from finding love and being successful in this?
Okay, there's a few things there. First of all, I would never say blowing it because high performers hate that kind of language, right? That's the language of I'm failing and self-judgment, and nobody is ever going to be harsher on themselves than a perfectionist or a powerful, high-performing woman. From the moms who are surviving, taking care of their kids and kicking ass in a career out there, to the ones who are climbing the ladder, to the ones who are debating whether to stay in a marriage or whatever it is, right? So I wouldn't use that language per se, but why is it such a challenge? What is the difficulty? There's a whole bunch of reasons. I think the easiest thing that we could say it comes down to is, that's kind of the umbrella, is two things: self-awareness and willingness. I'll use my own journey as an example. In my 20s, right? So I mentioned, like, I grew up, I was kind of like the nerdy kid who couldn't get a girlfriend in high school. It was all boys high school, but still. By the time I went to college, I overcompensated the other way, right? But I didn't have a real understanding of what was going on emotionally with me. So by the end of my 20s, I was dating all of these women, but I was still feeling unloved, not good enough, not satisfied. I still craved the attention of women. And it was when I got to a certain point where I wanted more women. And I was like, there's something wrong here. Like, one woman doesn't feel like it's good enough for me to feel good enough, right? So I lacked awareness. I didn't understand what was really going on. It's kind of like I was trying to meet, it's like being thirsty for water, but instead you're trying to meet the need by eating food, but you're thirsty. Like you don't understand what you really need, what it's really about. So I had this emotional need, and I was trying to meet it another way. So awareness is number one. What's really going on? But then you can have awareness and still not fix the problem, right? So then I began to have awareness there was something emotionally going on that I needed to address. But I wasn't willing to let anyone else into that process, right? Because of my background, because of being what we would call enmeshed with a mother and making her needs my needs, feeling responsible for her happiness, I didn't want to let anyone else in. I just wanted to solve everything on my own. I also was the A student, nerd in high school. So I'll figure it out. I'll read every book. I'll use my brain to solve this. The problem is, I reached a certain point where I'm working on learning relationships without being willing to relate to anyone. I don't want to tell anyone, let anyone in, be vulnerable, involve anyone. So finally, my choice to be willing to let a therapist into that, in my 20s, was a major turning point for me to begin opening up and looking at it. So often, strong, powerful people have learned some sense of independence and self-reliance. That's also safe, control, protection, right? So strong women, quite often, it's not the first instinct to say, let me be vulnerable. Let me allow someone into the thing that I'm most sensitive about, which is being hurt or disappointed ever again, not finding love. And then there's the thing that we have felt good about as high performers. Our ego can then get in the way. I don't want to admit that this is a thing that I'm struggling with. I don't want to have to say, hey, I'm not good at something. I'm good at everything. It's my identity. It's where I get my self-worth, because I don't get it from love and relationship. So there can be all of these inherent inbuilt obstacles to us finding our way to getting the kind of help we need for someone to spot our blind spot and lovingly, not judgmentally, give us the tools we need to be able to break a pattern that we may not be aware of to begin with, and then we may not be willing to look at secondarily. That's the long answer. The short answer that most people prefer and women love is, let's just start by blaming the guys. Say men are jerks, men are assholes. Hope I can swear on your things. They just did. And that's sort of the easy way, right? Is like, guys are jerks. And by the way, a lot of guys are. Believe me, I lived through it, through watching what my mom went through. But most guys are not irretrievable jerks. Like, they can never be nice to anyone ever. And most guys aren't saints. Most men reside somewhere in the middle, and they'll treat you a certain way depending on how you show up. So you can be empowered to get the results you want with dating or in a relationship you're already in, but it starts with awareness and willingness.
I want to talk about jerks. I want to tell you what my opinion of it is, and then get your opinion, if that's all right.
Please.
So, like, I think a lot of the time when we date, we're like, all right, as a man, I'm looking for a woman that kind of acts like a man because that's easy for me. I understand it sometimes.
Okay.
And then women do the same. They're like, well, why doesn't the man kind of act like a woman? Because that's easy for me. But in reality, we're very different. And those differences is what makes relationships amazing, because inherently you don't need someone to be the same. Dating, I'm not articulating this very well, but the union of coming together is having those differences. So specifically what I want to talk about is we perceive men as jerks because men crave being independent, versus women love having support. And that goes back to, for example, like caveman days. The man, he went and hunted, and his job was to be quiet so that he didn't scare away the animals so that he could hunt. And he was independent. And if he brought home some food, then they had some food. A woman, on the other hand, caveman days, was at home, and she needed support of the village, because if she got sick, if she didn't have her female friends, no one took care of her and she died. So she got very good at having support, helping others, so that when it was her time, they would help her. And a man was, I'm going to go hunt, I'm going to be quiet. And so when we look at a man in today's day and age, he's independent, and he's sometimes doesn't always understand the support thing. He's like, all right, let's go. Like, and then he comes off as a jerk because he's like, well, my mission straight line is I want to accomplish X. And he's not always thinking about, the woman. Does that make sense at all, Barry, or did I just jumble that up?
No clue what the hell you're talking about. No, I'm kidding. I totally follow. For me, it's more like there are 9 directions we can go with that. First of all, I'm just going to say to your viewers, thanks for listening this far. If you're still watching, listening, I'm going to move now. And because I'm holding this, apologize for sort of any of the instability. Some people just want, right? They like when it's just a nice, stable picture. Look, it's beautiful outside. I decided to do this outside, and we should meet our needs. All right, so let's get into what you're talking about. First of all, I find that evolutionary anthropological argument, right? That it's a point of view that's been very popular. David Data and Way of the Superior Man, some of Jordan Peterson's stuff, a lot of the stuff about masculinity, we have really started to re-examine, right? Males and masculinity are a hot topic in the sense that a lot of men have lost their sense of how to connect to it. That said, I think that there are a lot of very rigid norms that aren't always useful for us at this point when we consider it to be just biologically binary based. What I mean by that is this. Everyone I've ever worked with, male or female, has 2 polarities within themselves in terms of character traits. And we can call them masculine, feminine. We can call them yin yang if we want to just get more Eastern. But there are polarities. So I agree and understand with the idea of polarity as a spectrum, but I don't believe it's an either or. A lot of women who work with me come in having heard, hey, you're too masculine, right? You have too much masculine energy, and it doesn't let a man show up as a man. It can be true that it's challenging if 2 people are both in the same side of themselves at the same time. So look, one side of each of us has that structural, rational, put feelings aside to be directional, get a task done side that is about discipline and narrowing. And we can also have another side that can be very much in that intuitive and feeling and spontaneous in the moment and expansive awareness. I do not believe that inherently we are all one or the other. I believe all of us have both in us. It's also been my experience and a lot of what the research says. So what the hell does that mean for dating and relationships? How does that apply to us? Well, it means it can look a lot of different ways, but it also means that if you're not aware of which side of you are in and which side of you your partner is in, or the person you're trying to date or attract, then you can end up with a misfit. You can end up where 2 people would like to be directional, meaning like, hey, I'll take the map and decide where we're going, and you can just sit back and receive and enjoy. And the other person's like, no, I'd like to take the map and sit back, receive and enjoy. Or be in control while you sit back and receive and enjoy. There are layers of why that happens. Quite often, we're bringing old emotional wounds that cause unhealthy emotional patterns into this that have nothing to do with masculine, feminine side. Somebody who wants to be in control of planning things because they like certainty, because when they have certainty, they feel like they can trust more and be safer. They won't be let down because they were always let down by their dad who took off on them as a kid and said he'd be places and then wasn't. So they like guarantees and certainty and control. That's not necessarily the same as masculine, feminine balance. It can mean that they prefer spending time in that side of themselves, right? Also, like my client who she couldn't get what she wanted from her dad in the sense of, your daddy's little girl, you're my princess, when she was 5, 6, 7, because she came from a traditional household of a culture where the man dominated and the wife had no say, her mom had no say. And she was being raised in a Western culture, and it felt wrong and bad to come home empowered from school and then squashed at home. So instead she said, I'm going to display my dad's traits and I will fight him for respect and power. So then she went out into the world as that. She became very successful as a corporate negotiator who would cut men's balls off for a living in a way, right? Because she was just running up against white-haired men who wanted to dominate. And for her, that was just that same trope of the me versus dad battle. But that's an old emotional wound playing out too. What I say to women who have a very powerful masculine, as we would call it, and I don't think that the gendered words for that serve us really. I wish it was just like polarity A and B at this point, or side A and B. It's not about reduce your masculine side. It's about learn how to get empowered and connected to your powerful feminine. Most of the time, with the women I work with, they have had some kind of role modeling where to be in what they considered to be their feminine side meant being dishonored or not expressing needs or not getting their needs met or being taken advantage of. That was what mom role model. So they decided they'd rather be more like dad than mom, not consciously, right? A lot of this is subconscious. So they lacked an example of how the feminine could be in her feminine power and be honored and receive love and still get respect. When we bring the feminine power up to match the masculine development, it's almost like having a really well-built right arm bicep and an underdeveloped left bicep. When we match those sides, they become a very healthy person. And then we add awareness so that they know, hey, if we're going to pitch and catch here in this area, you take the lead. And now I'm going to take the lead. And this is part of why I don't like masculine and feminine, because what? The masculine means you're the leader and the feminine means you're the follower. It's such utter BS. Like I'm just not, I don't agree with it anymore, but I do agree with polarity as something we have to be aware of. That's the long answer. We need several hours here. I think you're right.
Barry, I love all of that. And I just want to echo what you said that, and say that I'm in agreement in terms of, if we're talking about masculine and feminine energy, everyone's on the spectrum, and both men and women have both, and they're going to sit somewhere on the spectrum. So totally agree. What I would love to hear your advice on is something you were talking about maybe about 5 minutes ago. I'm so excited for this answer. You were talking about, let's pretend we have the example you were talking about was a couple. They decide to date each other, and they're on a vacation in Paris.
Huh.
And they're in Paris, and both parties have that personality. Let's call it type A, just to define it for people that like definitions. And they like to plan. So on Monday, the guy is saying, here's what we're doing all day. And they've built this system where then on Tuesday, she's deciding what happens all day and is in control. And that's the system they've built. Now, in terms of, we're talking about people picking and picking their partners. They built a system that works for them. Okay. But since they're both wanting to be in that control role, did they pick the right partner? Is this going to be healthy for them long-term where one has to sit on the sideline every other day? Or did they pick the wrong partner and needed someone who's going to let them be in control most of the time? What are your feelings on that?
First of all, we can never dictate from some rigid template like that. We know ahead of time what needs will work for two people over time because it's such a dynamic thing. And the foundation of the stuff I do is very much about self-awareness of our deep need, our real needs, not the thing we think we need. Like, I need to plan this. No. What's the actual, why do you need to plan it? What emotional need does that meet for you? Oh, because then I feel like I'm in control. And what emotional need does that meet? Well, then I feel more relaxed. Okay. So you're anxious otherwise, which means you feel fearful, though we hate that word. It means you don't feel completely comfortable, which means you don't feel safe. So it meets a safety need for, and we have to delve into what's really going on there. I just had a client who went to Paris, had something similar kind of come up. And here's the thing, the mistake I see made too often, particularly, I have another client who had this mistake come up. Men can often look at compromise as something that is not simultaneous, meaning this particular husband, not the Paris couple, but the one that this compromising came up with, he thought of compromise as, I get my way, well, you kind of get the crap end of the stick. Then we take turns and you get your way, well, I get the crap end of the stick. Right? That's how he thought compromise worked. That's not how it works in a healthy sense. I mean, very, very rarely, like, there can be a thing like this, but for the most part, this is like what my clients in Paris had to do, which is, I want to stay in this hotel room, or I want to switch hotel rooms, right? So who gets their way? The compromise is really about, we're lacking understanding of what need we're really trying to meet. So it's sitting down without the fear, and this is where, if you have past wounds, past patterns, I'm not heard, I'm not respected, right? You're in a household where you were the invisible kid, or you were talked over, or mom and dad didn't work well together. One person would win, one would eat crap. It's, or just pretend everything was okay. I had clients come in and go, oh, mom and dad got on great. No, they didn't. It turned out mom smiled and just ate her needs, right? And so they didn't divorce. The conversation in Paris looked like her reason for wanting to be in that room had to do with her real needs for, I need to know that you're hearing me, that trip, we just got here, I'm exhausted, I'm tired. I don't want my little girl, my inner child doesn't want to immediately be dragged to packing again and having to go to another room. It's like, I need safety and security and sanctuary and hunkering down, and I need to know my man wants to protect that. Not that he's like, but this is not good. If we're already settled in here, we can't move later. That's unfair to the hotel. And his need was, he was afraid of how they'd be perceived. He needed to be liked by the hotel staff, not unpack in a room, have her take a nap and go down hours later and request a change of room. Right? So his need was, I need to be liked. I have a certain image of what makes me a good or bad person. And that all depends on how the hotel staff perceives me. That threatened her, feeling like she's saying, I need to feel like you have my back and protect me, but you care more about their feelings than mine. So the compromise became then talking about the real feelings going on underneath, not about the room. It wasn't about the room. It was about whose needs mattered more. And once we get to that, the destructive thing in needs is usually fear. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Her fear is she doesn't matter to her partner. His fear is he will be judged by other people, right? As Esther put it on a recent thing, pussy whipped, right? He's not a man. So they had to talk about that feeling for one another. I respect you. You are a man. I respect you as a man, right? And him coming to terms with, I am a man, and as a man, I care about my woman's feelings, regardless of whether they like this at the front desk. And she had to come to terms with being able to hear that from him, right? And that she had to be considerate of, I need a rest, I need a nap, but I'm putting my man in a difficult position. So they talked about what they were both afraid of, and her being like, you know what, I do matter to him, but he also is trying to be considerate of others. Once you talk about the real insecurities and fears, not while you're afraid, because that's arguments, then suddenly you get to the root of the problem and compromise gets easy because you have empathy. I care. I don't want you to be afraid. I don't want you to feel not good enough. I care about you, and they care back. And then you come up with something that works for both. By the way, it's only several years of learning how to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough skill in the moment, and that's why humans are not perfect. We eventually get there to the empathy. It's hard to always be empathetic in the moment. But just out of curiosity, so what was the solution for these two?
But the solution for the two was, she laid down for a moment in the room while he went down to talk to them. But he was willing to understand that she's like, okay, I don't mind you exploring us changing rooms, but I need to get my needs met here, and I need to not move for a while. So I need you to just go down, and you can initiate the conversation with them, but just let them know she's really exhausted, and so she needs just a moment up there. Let's talk about if there's going to be another room available in an hour or two. Like, so they figured out a way to get their needs met, but initially when they were in reaction, when she was in, you're not listening to me, you don't care, right? And he was in, oh my God, you're putting me in an embarrassing situation, I'm gonna have to go down there hours. They were both so triggered that they were rigid and extreme. We need to leave the room now, and why don't you care about me? So there was no, they were in what's called emotional dysregulation. When we're in emotional dysregulation, our amygdala shuts the rest of the brain down. Prefrontal cortex is what can have a solution-based conversation. This is what a lot of the more recent neuroscience gets into. Dr. Mona Fishbane does a whole thing on this. It's great on conflict in relationships. So you're emotionally dysregulated. You're in your dinosaur part of your brain. The prefrontal cortex and the lights are out in that part of your brain and the rest of your brain. It's not till we get out of emotional dysregulation and into emotional regulation that we can have the compromise conversation and ideas actually come to mind, right? We're not in a solutions-based moment when we're upset.
So just to make this wildly simpler for the people watching, basically, if we're feeling stress,
yes,
we're tired,
we're upset, we're hurt.
yes.
Yeah.
Any of those things, we're not capable of having empathy, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. In 12-step stuff, which I think is kind of like the gold standard industrial strength of like, can you change a pattern, right? Is addictive pattern. But in 12-step, they call it HALT. Check in and check with HALT. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, right? But we can add other things to that too. But yeah, hungry, tired, physiological stuff can be very mood altering, right? Hangry. I don't know if you ever heard the term hangry, right? You're angry because you're hungry. So yeah, stuff like that. You have to check in because when you're in that place, it's not a good time to resolve things.
I love that. That's good stuff, Barry. I thoroughly appreciate it. So Barry's been obviously a wealth of information and clearly has spent a lot of time researching this. I'm sure all of you are going to want to get a hold of Barry again. Barry, I know you're going to give everyone a free gift. And so guys, to make this easy for you, I'm going to put the link in the description. And then I'm also going to put it on as a top comment. So it'll be at the very top. I'll pin it. Barry, what free gift do you want to give my audience?
Well, I think what would probably serve best is I don't like to do like the whole Shape magazine thing where they put one diet or workout out and just expect it to be a one size fits all. It's just not true. Everyone has a different situation, different pattern, right? We each have needs that are more custom. So what I like to do when it's someone that I respect like you, and I know the people watching are good people, is I'll offer them a chance to apply to get on a phone with me directly. So if they want to go to datemenNotBoys.com/apply, the link that you have there, then they'll be able to just answer a few questions about what the challenges they may be facing and what they want in their dating and relationships. And I'll have a look at that. And the people that I know will benefit from the call, it's a no-cost call. I can't approve everyone, unfortunately. I get a lot of people who want to get on the phone with me. Those who I can't talk with, though, I will at the very least look to send you a resource, a tool, like the many things we're mentioning today. Whatever suits the situation you're facing, I can at least send you that, right? If you apply and you really are kind of detailed about what you're facing on that page and the questions on there. And for a few people, if I think that I can be a powerful difference and impactful and help you, then we can get on the phone and we'll talk.
Cool. That's exciting. I think we could, if we've got the wrong patterns, clearly Barry can start directing you in the right direction, which is really valuable. Like, I mean, no one wants to keep, hitting their head against the same rock. We want to change direction. So Barry will
find a new rock, right? And that's the thing,
find a different rock.
Switching guys doesn't always work, right? It's like same pattern, different guys. So yeah, don't switch rocks and just keep hitting your head with different rocks either.
Yeah, we'll get you a pillow instead of a rock, so then you can have nice nights of sleep. You'll be able to be empathetic because you're getting your sleep, as opposed to our sleepless person who doesn't have empathy.
Right. We all deserve to be loved for who we really are. That's at the core. That's what matters to me. Be who you really are, and someone who loves you for exactly that. We deserve it.
Couldn't agree more. Barry, thank you for your time, my friend. And we're going to get together soon.
Absolutely. We're just down the road from each other. And by the way, thanks everyone for joining me in the garden. I know this isn't like a perfect quiet studio environment, but it's so beautiful here, as I'm sure he can attest to as well. Come to California. Enjoy the sun and the earthquakes.
Yeah, or in my case, come to California and still have the exact same cave with the shades closed because
we'll get you out of
the
there.
light
We'll
will
get
be
you out of your cave.
You won't see me.
We'll get you out of there.
All right, we're going to get outside. I'm gonna make a video outside. Barry,
Yes.
all of you, you can hold me accountable. There will be a video outside sometime. Maybe at the beach.
I will be your accountability partner for the beach. Sounds good.
Now we're talking. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us. I love all of you. I'm going to have a video on Tuesday and every Tuesday. Get Barry's free gift. And if you're not subscribed, go in there, hit subscribe, hit like. When you subscribe, I forgot, you got to hit the bell so you get notifications. And I love all of you. Thanks for joining. And
He's awesome. Subscribe.
Yeah, Barry, get him. Bye, guys.